Hey, and welcome back to episode 47? 48 of the Cellarcast. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I've been awake for, let's see, I woke up at like 1 p.m. yesterday. I've been awake since then. It's about 9 a.m. today. So what is that? It's like 1, it's 12. What's 12 plus 9? Oh, gosh. Wait, no, wouldn't it be 12 plus 8? 12 plus 8 is 20? I've been awake for 20 hours? Yeah, I'm trying to fix my sleep. I don't know why I'm so bad at maintaining a sleep schedule. I used to be good at it. Now, I say used to be good at it, I mean I was good at it for like 2 weeks, and I felt really good. And I don't know what happened. Sometimes I get carried away. So I am this one might be one of those classic delirious Cellarcast episode where I'm like massively underslept, and I don't know, I might say something weird. We actually didn't have any comments, any questions last episode. It's so funny. I went and looked at like the first episode I ever did the comment review. I didn't even call it the comment review. I called it the comment crawl. That's a better name, but I don't know. Comment review just sounds better. I don't know. No, does it? They're both good. I don't. As soon as I start talking, like all the gas in my system just starts like spasming in my esophagus. Comment crawl's a good name, but I feel like I'm too entrenched in the comment review side. Which side are you on? Yeah, we didn't have any questions last time, so there wasn't really anything I wanted to talk about. My voice might sound a little scratchy because I've been trying to stay awake by talking to people. So yeah, my voice might sound a little run through, a little raggedy. Raspy? Not really raspy. Gravelly. That's one of them. Usually I have such a smooth tone and texture to my voice. Such a satiny texture to my vocals. But today you're getting sandpaper. Anyway, we're gonna jump right into it with a story that we're gonna start off with the worst story of the week. Something that, I don't know, upset me. I don't even know at this point. Look, let's just get into it. All right. So there is a company called, what are they called? Polka Fantasy? What the fuck are these guys called? Polka? Is it really Polka Fantasy? Yeah, polkafantasy.com. And it's some kind of what do you call this? I don't know what they do. I'm trying to find. Yep. It's PF Marketplace on Twitter. You don't need to know what they do. They're an NFT game company. And it's weird. They have like all this artwork of characters and stuff, and I don't even know like what they do. multi-chain integration, smart auctions, easy NFT transfer, discover, collect, trade, the ultimate NFT marketplace experience. Polka Fantasy. Oh, so they're now called Amy? Amy? That's probably because they're terrible fucking publicity. Because from what I can tell, it's a MFT thing. Of course, it's a scam. So why am I talking about this? It's just they're a Japanese company. I guess that's kind of interesting. Just some company that's like doing NFT games. Who gives a crap, right? Well, they announced a couple days ago that they were, I believe, the original tweet has been deleted from the appearance of it. So, but they basically announced they posted deleted. They posted a little silhouette of a little character, and they said, we're teaming up with a game industry legend to bring you a brand new NFT series. And you look at the art and you're like, is this Mega Man? No. That's impossible. And then the silhouette is revealed, and it turns out it is an NFT series. It's not Mega Man. It's basically a bunch of knockoff Mavericks from Mega Man X. Like, just a bunch of, like off-brand Mavericks. Designed by Keiji Inafune. That's right. Your boy has entered the NFT space. And now the moment this dropped, people were like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what the hell? And, so a member of the, Brian, aka Proto Dude, who is, longtime member of the Mega Man community. He runs Rockman Corner, which is like kind of like the Mega Man news site. He's one of the dudes in the Mega Man community. He's one of the proto dudes. And he made this tweet that was like, but 90 I'm going to read it word for word. 99.9% confirmed Inafune has no development with this project. His copyright appears nowhere on the site. His typical message to fans is absent, and the Japanese text portion is ripped verbatim from his Japan Game Creators Guild profile. So it was like, everything's pointing to this just being a really shady fly-by-night operation. They're just using his name. So they're just using like his name and his likeness, and basically what they've done is created these like really I don't know, like they really do look like knockoff Mavericks, right? And someone even pointed out, like, yeah, it doesn't even look like his style. It looks like it looks like someone imitated. It looks like a crappy imitation of his style. So yeah, that happened pretty quickly. Like, obviously, people looked into this really fast, and they were like, "Does he actually have any involvement with this thing?" Because it seems so random. There's nothing. There's no message from him. There's no statement from him on his own accounts about it. It's just like totally. It's just some bullshit scam. And then it wasn't. And then they posted a video of Inafune talking about how excited he is to be rolling out this new line of NFTs. They're gonna take everything from me, guys. They're gonna take everything from me. What more do I have to lose? Oh God. If no one knows or is no one's familiar with who Keiji Inafune is, he is the co-creator. He is a co-creator of Mega Man. Calling him, he usually gets pegged with the I usually get fucking pegged. He usually gets pegged with the title of like the father of Mega Man. Not really true. A little backstory on Mega Man. The original Mega Man character actually started as a sprite. The sprite was the first thing that was put together of him. Because at Capcom, I think they specifically wanted a mascot or character for consoles, and because they were just in the arcades and they wanted to expand to consoles, so they wanted to make something like specifically for the home console market. And I think that's probably why they started with like, okay, well, what's possible on like an 8-bit system. So Akira Kitamura, who's the original programmer, lead programmer of Mega Man 1 and 2, and one of the lead designers, drew up the original Mega Man sprite, that iconic classic sprite. And then from there, Inafune took that character and fleshed him out into like concept art, basically, which is actually kind of an interesting way to do like development, actually. So that, it's kind of why you see that like a lot of the earlier Mega Man art he looks very like, I don't know, squat. He's very wide, and it's funny. He takes on like a slightly sleeker, almost leaner look by the time of like Mega Man 4 and stuff. Whoa, my leg fell asleep massively. My leg's just doing what I wish I could be doing. He takes on that like kind of leaner look around Mega Man 4, but I think that like kind of wider look, that chunkier, thicker look for him was kind of like inspired by that. He looks doughy. That's what he looks like. He looks like a doughy guy. I think that was inspired by, if I had to guess, I would say that was inspired by that original sprite. And then Inafune kind of just became the like producer of the series for a while after Kitamura left following Mega Man 2. And he's typically like the Mega Man guy. That's what people know him as. And like Inafune kind of sucks. Like Inafune kind of like, there's a lot of people who look up to him, and I get that, right? I get like fuck, I love Mega Man's like one of my favorite things. I don't talk about it as often as like, other stuff, but Mega Man really is like one of my favorite things. Mega Man X is the reason I got so into like game design, which like really propelled a lot of my interests. Holy crap, my leg is the pins and needles, dude. Was because of the sequelitis episode on Mega Man X. Like that was a big deal for me. As a kid. I mean, that came out in like 2011. I was 9 years old when I watched that. Like new. It was on YouTube in 2011. I was never on Newgrounds as a kid, but that had a huge influence on me, right? And Mega Man's always been something that's like really, really near and dear to my heart. I could go on and on and on about why that is and all the things that I love about it, but I used to definitely be like, oh, Inafune, he's the guy, he's the father of Mega Man. And as I've learned more about it, I've kind of come to be like, kind of I've gotten more of I want to say a nuanced view on it. The fact of the matter is that yeah, this sucks, but Inafune has sucked for a while. Like, let's not kid ourselves. He's kind of sucked since like 2015 when he did Mighty Number 9. There's this like very ominous tweet from Hideki Kamiya where he says he doesn't like Keiji Inafune. I don't know if he says he doesn't like him, but he says like he's a businessman before he's a creator, and I'm like, or before he's an artist, I think. And it's like, damn, that fucking cuts, dude. That's a cutting statement from someone like Kamiya. Yeah. Hair got on my tongue. So I'm actually not as heartbroken as you might assume from, they're gonna take everything from me. This is just kind of, honestly, it's, in a sad way, it's kind of in character, right? I mean, he's basically, what he's doing is he's taking the legacy of Megaman X, which I don't even think he was. What was his role on that game? Because he was producer for a while, and Mega Man X video game. Let's see, producer Tokoro Fujiwara, designer Keiji Inafune, okay, and artist, okay. He's taking the legacy of Mega Man X and basically using it, exploiting it is the better word. He is exploiting it to sell people. And you have to imagine that these are people who care about Inafune, or that's at least the goal, right? Why would you buy a knockoff Mega Man X NFT from Keiji Inafune? Obviously, some people are just going to do it because they're speculators, and NFTs are just inherently speculation. But if you're putting it together, like, the pitch is that you're doing it because we should do this because people care about Mega Man X and they care about Keiji Inafune. Keiji Inafune and his work. And you're basically taking that like interest and that passion and that appreciation for something that you've done, and you're selling those people nothing. You're selling them thin air. Like, I can look at a, whatever freaking PNG is gonna come out of these, and I'm like, great, I have consumed it. It's in my brain. You can't. I have as good as buying one. I think I went over this a few episodes ago, but you have to realize that most of the time that you buy an NFT, if it's like an image or something, hosting images on the blockchain is like really expensive. Like, multiple images gets really expensive. So most of these you're not even technically, the NFT doesn't even direct to an image. It's a link. You're buying a link to an image that's hosted on like just a regular ass image hosting server. Like, he's selling you a link to an image. That's what he thinks of you. And like, you can say like, oh well, he I saw someone who was like, well, yeah, he doesn't know I'm sure he just saw a trend and he jumped on it. Like, just like, it's kind of criticizing him, but it's giving him a lot of benefit of the doubt. And to be perfectly honest, I really don't care, because you should do your research. Like, if you're gonna sell your fans something, you should probably do your research on what that actually is. Like, is this bullshit? Am I just selling my fans just thin air, or something that is actually valuable in some way? Right? And like, I mean, like, when YouTubers do ads, you've heard this before. I'm sure you've heard YouTubers be like, well, I do ads, but I take sponsorships, but all the sponsorships that I do are things that I try the product out, and if I enjoy it, then I'll be happy to sponsor it. I think that's totally fair, and I think most people are okay with that. Like, hey man, like, if you enjoy it, if it's a product you use, look, even if it is a scam, it's a scam that you're buying into. So like, there's no malice, right? There's no maliciousness there. Assuming like you actually like really tried the product or something. This is like, there is like, you're selling some shit that you just did not look into. Like, do you think Keiji Inafune owns an NFT? Do you think he owns any? Do you think he bought one and he was like proud of his decision? Like, wow, I really bought something with value. Like, maybe he does. Maybe he does, and he's actually just like drinking the Web3 Kool-Aid. But something tells me that he saw yen signs and jumped onto the opportunity to make some money. And is it disappointing? Not really, honestly. Inafune is a guy, he's a businessman. He's a businessman who happens to also like be an artist. Man, that's a mean thing to say. It's probably because I'm so tired. He's a businessman who happens to be an artist, and that gives him a particular skill set that he can bank off of. So I can't say that I'm disappointed. It's just like, damn, you really fucking went there, dude. Man, you couldn't. Was what the hell was it called? It wasn't called Red Earth. Red Sky? Not Red Steel. Red Steel was the fucking Wii game. Keiji Inafune. Red Ash. Red Ash. If no one remembers this, when Mighty Number 9 was still in development, right? The game had not even come out. Keiji Inafune was like, hey, let me start another Kickstarter right now for like a Mega Man Legends spiritual sequel. And there's gonna be like, what was it? It was like a separate Kickstarter for like a fucking anime movie it was gonna be of it. And like, just like, everyone was like, dude, what are you doing? What are you... like, what are you... like, are you... What is this? And then Mighty Number 9 being so poorly planned. I don't think it was like... I don't believe Mighty Number 9 was like a scam. It was just really bad decision making. The main thing that killed that game was that their fucking stretch goals were insane. Like, they were publishing on like 9 different SKUs, like 9 different platforms. It was like last gen and current gen. uh, Steam version, Wii U version. There was no mobile version, but that's like, let's see, 4, 5, 6. It's like 6, and there's like a couple other ones I forget, but it was just insane. It was like, this is way too much, way too much. You did not plan this appropriately. And then you get the pizza explosions in Mighty Number 9, and you get the game breaking people's Wii U's. Remember that? And this was paired with a very funny story that came out like a day later from Proto Dude. I'm gonna take you back to memory lane. The title of this article is over on Rockman Corner. How overambition and mismanagement killed Megaman Universe. Oh, do you remember Megaman Universe? So there was this funny period in Mega Man history where there were about 4 Mega Man games that were either announced or started, like, were in some kind of concept phase that got canceled. There was like 4. And each one of them could have been really cool. They just never panned out. One of those was Mega Man Universe. So if you don't remember this, Mega Man Universe was basically going to be Mario Maker, but Mega Man. It was like a platform where you would create your own Mega Man levels. And it looked kind of interesting. It looked cool. It looked like it was going to be a big smorgasbord. I thought it looked cool. Like it was going to be a big smorgasbord of different Mega Man stuff. And, if... Now, nowadays, hey, if you don't know about this is really cool. Mega Man Maker is a real thing. It's a fan game. It's really good. It's literally Mario Maker, but Mega Man. Drop my magnets. You should go check it out. It's free. You can download it right now and make levels and play other people's levels. It's great. It's really cool. What the fuck was I? Yeah, so excuse me. In 2011 it was announced. I think it was the first thing came out in what was this? 2010. Yeah, 2010. Canceled a year later. No one knew what happened. No one knew what happened to it. But it was just like, oh, I guess it just didn't pan out. Well, according to Proto Dude, 10 years after the project died, a lot of the non-disclosure agreements are gone now. They're just null and void. They don't apply anymore. I want to read... This is a really fascinating interview. There's about 4 different sources, if I remember correctly, that he interviewed for this. I'll read a couple of the quotes. So when Mega Man Universe was first announced, there wasn't a solid plan about what the game was going to be. One day it was a Mega Man 2 remake. The next, Inafune would talk about it as if it would be a platform in itself. It went back and forth there for a little while. So they just didn't really know what it was going to be. So Universe was from New York Comic Con 2010 on, which was the announcement trailer. So from that point on, envisioned to be less of a game and more of a storefront. It was to be a place where players could buy different Mega Man characters and objects to build their own Mega Man games. That sounds very... I do not trust, like, Street Fighter Cross Tekken era Capcom to do this ethically. Inafune once hypothesized there wouldn't be a need for more traditional Mega Man games. Universe would just keep growing, sustained by the fans and content provided by Capcom. He saw it going on for years, a continuous stream of revenue. That was his vision. Wow. Never change, Inafune. Never change. What a stark contrast from the Mega Man Maker guys who just fucking think it would be cool if you could make your own Mega Man levels. Not only did Inafune hope Mega Man Universe would be a big hit with fans, he wanted it to push Capcom and the Japanese game industry toward a, quote, digital future. He wanted to show companies the value behind downloadable content. Well, Capcom certainly understood it. However, as the quote continues, after NYCC and Tokyo Game Show 2010, Inafune was really taken aback by the negative reception. People just didn't like the game. From the top of my head, Destructoid wasn't sold on it. IGN hated it. And the fans weren't keen on the art style. It does have a bit of a weird, like... Let me go check out this trailer again. This is a funny, like, weird trailer with, like, the... It's like the claymation. Where the fuck is the... Show the gameplay. Where's the gameplay? Oh, they never show gameplay in this. I have no idea what the game... I forget completely what the gameplay was supposed to look like. Do they ever show gameplay in this trailer? No. How funny. How funny. Okay. So with less than stellar impressions in hand, Inafune brought the title back to the drawing board. So they basically looked at the feedback and they were like, okay, biggest problems are graphics and controls. So the art direction was a big turnoff for many players. This is one of the quotes. Pretty early on, it was decided that Mega Man Universe's target audience would be the West. Oh, great. So they looked at what kind of animation was popular at the time. You know, stuff from Cartoon Network. Gotta slick my throat. Oh god, this is so fucking 2010s Capcom. Just like, well, what does America like? Let's just make our games like Americans like it. Because they say the West. It's like, you know what they mean. You know what they mean. Yeah, this was how you get the DMC Devil May Cry. And just a bunch of dumb shit. And like stuff that didn't appeal to Capcom's actual core audience. It was the whole thing with like, yeah, turns out people buy Japanese games because they like Japanese games. They're not buying Japanese games because they like American games because they're like what they get in America. Because like stuff that's like stuff that's trying to imitate another country always comes across as just like a second-rate version of it. At best, it's like kind of amusing. Like, do you guys fucking remember Marvel Mangaverse? Look this up, Marvel Mangaverse. in the 2000s, I think, Marvel was like, we want to appeal to more. We're trying to get into more. We want to expand our market to more women, black people, and people with autism. I'm not kidding. And what do they like? Oh, they like manga. Let's fucking make like manga based off of Marvel Comics characters. And it's just bizarre because it's like a comic book format, but it's like aping manga stylings. And by manga stylings, I mean like Shonen Jump. And they were like, it's like the manga version of Spider-Man. He's like a ninja because Japan. And Iron Man is a robot. It's like a big mech. Like he's a giant robot. And because I saw like a VHS from Japan with like Mazinger Z, and they like the giant robots, and it's so, it's the other side of the coin. It's the, it's fucking that's our version of the DMC Devil May Cry. You just look at this, you're like, this is like not, it's like the most surface level understanding of like what makes things from a particular country interesting to their audience. So like you just get this total misreading of like what the fuck is going on. Because like, you can't unless you're like, because at the end of the day, it's like, a manga story is just gonna be a manga story. It doesn't have to be about robots or some shit. It's just gonna be a manga story. You realize like one of the biggest manga of all time in Japan is a basketball manga. They don't even play basketball in Japan. They can't touch the fucking rim. Oh, that was racist. Oh, that was super racist. I'm sorry. I love my Asian brothers out there. I didn't mean it like that. I know you guys got tall Asians. You got that Chinese guy. What the fuck was his name? Yang something? Who's that Chinese basketball player? Yao Ming. Yeah. The fucking guy. The one guy. Were there more? I feel like there was probably more Chinese basketball players. Maybe I'm just... Oh no. It's like I'm having like a version of... It's kind of like sundowning, except when I get... no, it's not... Well, because it's not sundowning, because it's the morning. I'm having like the reverse. I'm sun-upping, dude, when the sun comes up. So like sundowning is like when the sun goes down. It's like this thing old people get, so they get all confused. I'm getting sun-upping, which is when the sun comes up. I just get really racist. I told you there was gonna be some fucking weird shit going on today. Anyway, let's get back to Megaman Universe. So, yeah, basically that kind of like weird animation change didn't stick. Oh, people didn't like it? And then so they just were like, nah, they'll like it eventually. We'll make them like it. Rather than revamping the art direction entirely, the dev team focused on refining Megaman Universe's visual fidelity. They spent several weeks polishing textures, enhancing special effects, and creating a sense of dimension that was sorely lacking from the demo build. However, all of these changes had to take the controls into account. So they ran into this problem where the demo was running at like 30 frames per second. And that was like, they realized that the more like precision platforming of Mega Man was just kind of like a pain in the butt with 30 frames per second. Because Mega Man's built around a lot of like, you know, he doesn't particularly have very much momentum in his jump. Yeah, stuff, momentum and like friction and stuff isn't really taken into account in Mega Man. It's more just like you're picking 2 points and you got to make the jump, and there's not like a build up or any kind of that. So Mega Man has a lot more like close, precise jumps than something like Mario. So they were like, okay, well, it has to run at 60 FPS, which is like, yeah, sure, okay. But there's a problem, which a third source refers to as the shuffle animation. So Mega Man's got that classic, like in the NES games, right? He's got that shuffle. If you just tap left and right, he'll just make that little, you know. But they were like, no, we can't do that for some reason. Inafune wanted the game to evoke a sense of near realistic character movement. So, like, no shuffle. It's gotta be, like, smooth as butter, dude. It's gotta be just a smooth... There's no just auto turnaround thing. You know, hit the other direction. He's immediately facing that direction. It's gotta be, like... I don't know, man. This thing's gotta have more frames than, like, fucking Guilty Gear Strive super animation. That was a problem because it brought the frame rate down. This actually hurt the frame rate. So all these additional frames of animation had to be cut way down. They tried to go from 6 or 5 frames to 3 or 2. Holy crap. Just a huge, like, that's a huge difference. Just like slicing your frame rate in half, or like your animation frames in half, is ridiculous. Around fall 2010, it was decided that Universe would feature online 2-player co-op. The idea sounded great on paper, but at that point in production, the manpower needed to pull something like that off wasn't available, internally at least. So they're like, okay, well, we do not have the team size to actually implement, to work on this. And that's actually something that happens with a lot of games. Like, a lot of games will outsource their multiplayer to an external studio. Like, there's studios that, like, specialize in, like, we make the multiplayer for Call of Duty. We make the multiplayer for Gears of War, whatever, you know? That's their thing. And then the single-player content is like, okay, that's where the main development team goes. That's why you get these big blockbuster single-player campaigns and stuff like that. Because they dump most of their resources into that, and then they give the multiplayer to someone else. So they basically decided that that's what they needed to do in order to get this whole online 2-player co-op. So playing with someone remotely. We need to give this to a third party developer. We need to give this to an external developer. So I'm going to read this word for word. After some deliberation, he, referring to Inafune, inexplicably settled on a developer who had, quote, all caps, no experience with home consoles and no experience with online games / netcode. What? So, source says, it was very clear to me that Inafune wanted this game to be as cost-effective as possible. There were other candidates more suited for the job, but that was his choice. That was his choice. they could have gotten a developer who had like, oh, this thing was like set up to fail. This was practically sabotage, dude. I mean, just the incompetence to be like, no experience with home console. So what are they, like an arcade developer? PC developer? Like handhelds maybe? I don't know. And no experience with programming online. So you're giving your online functionality, like you're handing that over to someone who doesn't know how to do it, which is a big problem because you have to understand that like these are game development is a complicated process, and there are things that like there's what's known as like the pipeline, right? Like people are like, oh hey, why aren't there any like new like big budget, like why doesn't Capcom put out a new 2D like hand drawn or pixel art fighting game or something like that? And it's like they literally don't have processes for that. Like, yeah, obviously technologically it wouldn't be that hard, but there literally is not like a system that like when they make a new Resident Evil game, like a new Resident Evil remake, Resident Evil 8, right? They have a pipeline, which means like we have a system that we plug this shit into, right? And we just it adapts and it molds to the demands of the project. But the core of it, the skeleton of it is like all of these people on this team know how to use this engine. They know the processes that we use, and then we just like, you know, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3, and then we get the work done. That does not exist. Like, you would have to like train people how to do like pixel art, or train people how to do I don't know, some kind of Skullgirls style like digitization, like hand-drawn digitization. And then you would have to like literally come up with like processes and like a whole workflow to get that working, right? And like, yeah, if you want this to be a long-term thing, yeah, you can put in the work up front to like establish all that. But like just a one-off, like why? Like why would you do that? And the same thing goes with making like an online thing. Like those developers who are typical, like, you know, the go-tos for outsourcing like multiplayer, that's because they have experience with it. Like they have teams who know, they have teams who are trained in this process. They have a pipeline. They're like, okay, we need to get A, B, and C done. We're going to make our plan now. We know how to do it. We're working in our element, essentially. We're running into like the problems that they're running into are problems they've probably run into before. So they probably have an idea, at least, of how to solve it. It's huge. You know, like when I'm editing, there's a very different experience editing something where I'm learning a bunch of new stuff and editing something where I'm pretty much just like using skills that I already know. Like if I was to edit a movie, for instance, I feel like that would be, I've never done that before, but I feel like that would be a totally different workflow experience compared to editing, you know, one of my documentary style videos, one of my like art analysis style videos, whatever, right? You know, I feel like it would be a very different experience. And it would probably take me a lot longer, to be honest. I mean, if let's say it was the same length as one of my videos, you know, 20 to 30 minutes. I mean, like, shit, it would, even then, I think it would take me some time to, like, actually understand what I'm doing. So Inafune comes up with the genius idea to give it to someone who has no idea what they're doing. And I feel bad for this developer. Proto Dude does clarify that The developer, this external developer, is not going to be disclosed. He's going to keep it, anonymous. But it was not Inti Creates, which might be some people's first assumption. Inti Creates helped. Excuse me. Inti Creates was the studio that did Mega Man Zero, and I believe ZX. So that was kind of, they had a relationship with Capcom. You would assume it might be them. If you think about third-party studios or external studios working with something Mega Man related. Nope, not them apparently. So we don't know. I feel bad for them. And one of the sources even goes on to say, I do not want to speak for Inafune, but in a then emerging era... Wait. Wait, this is a different... Oh, yeah. In a then emerging era where you could push out patches for home console software, he may have presumed that for any issues presented by this developer's experience, they could be patched post-release. So he literally was just like, I'm going to give it to someone who doesn't know what they're doing, and then fuck it, we'll just fix it in a patch, Fuck it. Outsourced development, man, he was really ahead of the curve, right? This was a couple years before Ubisoft was like, yeah, we can just patch it later, quote unquote. And then it says, so yeah, basically, yeah, they just were trying to work with, and I feel bad for them because, man, that must suck, right? To get this, big, you're working on a Mega Man game, and, you don't want to be the studio that fucks up this huge thing, part of the game that people are going to complain about, maybe. That's just going to look bad on your studio's resume, and it's for, a bullshit reason. It's just because, you were not... It's asking a fish to climb a tree. So it was not long before the consequences of choosing an inexperienced developer arose. So the source number 3 states, the online multiplayer didn't work. I'm not kidding. It didn't work. And then, in the middle of this, Inafune leaves Capcom. He just fucking bolts in the middle of production. What the fuck? What the fuck, dude? Are you serious? I almost wonder if he was anticipating it to be if it came out, he assumed it was going to be a huge disaster. Maybe he saw the writing on the wall, and he was like, if I leave right now, he probably wanted to leave. I don't know why he wanted to leave, but he probably wanted to leave already. And he was like, if this game... Because, you listen to what he's talking about, and he's like, well, if we make this one game, we don't have to make any other Mega Man games. I think he just didn't want to make more Mega Man games, to be honest. And so when it started to look like it was going to be a giant disaster, he was like, well, what's even the point of me staying at the company if I can't just sit on one Mega Man game forever? And he's like, well, if I leave right now in the middle of development, I'm basically going to sabotage the fucking project and it's just going to die because it's just going to be in such disarray. A project that's already... He's literally just... He's the captain jumping ship. It's going to be in such disarray that he's going to have no... He's going to have... it's going to have no chance at ever seeing the light of day. And that's exactly what happened. It's exactly what happened. So basically, they had no director... so they had to pause production. So one of the sources says that the directorial role was not filled by a single person. Akiko Ito called the shots here and there, but it was, it was a disorganized scramble. Work continued nevertheless. I feel bad for these guys, dude. They got screwed on this project. They got screwed. The whole thing with, it seems like a lot of the problems, like the core problems, were just these fucking mandates that came down from Inafune. It's gotta be this art style because the West will like it. That's where the money is. It's gotta be it's gotta be the smooth turning animations. It's gotta have online co-op. We're gonna give it to a developer who has no experience working in these things. What? So yeah. Basically they were like, we just have to scrap the whole multiplayer idea. Like, we just can't launch with it. Yeah, so one of these sources says production completely floundered. The outsourced developer, even with the multiplayer gone, continued to struggle. They weren't a bad crew by any means, but they lacked the technical know-how to fully realize this increasingly ambitious game. It was simply too tall an order. Yeah, they got shoved into this thing. You know, a loaf that was much bigger than they could chew got shoved into their mouth. That's a weird thing. All three individuals I spoke to, yeah, he talked. One of the sources talks about playing a bit with the Xbox 360 build. He says graphically it was a bit more polished. Art style was the same. Performance-wise, it was still poor. All three individuals I spoke to shared the same sentiment. Megaman Universe was a great idea, but poorly executed. A tale as old as time. The scope of the project was too big for its allotted time and budget. The constraints brought on by poor project management did no favors either. I'll say this, began source number 1. If the game had a more capable external team, Mega Man Universe would have been a thing. I cannot guarantee it would have lived up to Inafune's dream entirely, but I'm confident it would have happened. Years later, I still think Mega Man Universe had something great for a moment. Mega Man is perfect for a Mario Maker type game. It's such a good idea. I really hope Capcom will jump on it someday. Well, guess what? Fans beat them to it. Yeah, but now he adds in a little what he calls a post-credits twist. Apparently, in 2011, Proto Dude went to when they he visited he ended up talking to a couple journalists, and he found out that after the game was scrapped, they tried to salvage it actually by basically taking what they'd done and trying to make basically like a simplified, he calls it stripped down iOS version, and would not have any. They were like, when I say stripped down, I'm saying he wrote down in his notes, no stage builder features. So none of the like creation features. Lean heavily into the Mega Man 2 remake aspect, and a basic character creator system intended to add value. Yeah, so they were like, well, fuck, the like stage builder thing isn't fully fleshed out, but we have all these assets. Let's just fucking like remake Mega Man 2 basically, and then take this like character creator thing, and that's gonna be our gimmick. According to source number 4, the external developer Inafune chose was so technically challenged that an iOS version would not have been possible in their hands. However, an iOS port would likely have been handled in-house at Tokyo. To their knowledge, though, an iOS port wasn't being worked on at the time. Mega Man Universe was pretty much dead. So it might have, that thing about the iOS port maybe was just like, you know, this is like potentially third-hand knowledge. Like, he heard it from some journalists. You know, where did they hear it from? They heard it from like internal sources. It could have literally just been like a concept to like maybe save whatever they, you know, maybe save the project. That never actually like really made it off the ground, because according to the source, they were never aware of any development of an iOS version. So it could have literally just been a concept that they were looking into at the time and maybe seemed promising, and then they just were like, yeah, fuck it. Yeah. It's a fascinating story. Honestly, it's an enlightening story about if you're, as just kind of like an encapsulation of, I don't know, Inafune as a leader, I guess. Like, holy shit, I've been talking about this for an hour. That's crazy. Inafune as a leader, Inafune as like just a businessman. Like, he wanted it cheap, and he doesn't give a fuck about the quality. That would seem to be the MO for this whole project. He wanted it cheap, and he was really weirdly specific on the quality. The turnaround animation. Like, okay, who cares? It's a Mega Man game. People are used to the shuffle. People love the shuffle. He scoots his little mega boots around, back and forth. I have definitely grown over the years to be less appreciative of Inafune. I think that he did do a lot of good work for the series, right? Especially during its early, I want to say, its first third, first half, maybe. But like eventually he kind of stepped into more of like an executive producer role. And at that point it gets a lot more iffy on like, well, how much like influence did he really have over every game? Yeah, I mean, he was a producer on Mega Man 0. He was not a director. That went to Ryota Ito. I'm recalling things that Inafune did. Game was produced by Inti Creates, Takuya Aizi, and co-directed by Inafune signed on as the game's co-producer. So as the series went on, he kind of had a lesser and lesser impact on it. And like, fuck, Mega Man 03, I think that's legitimately like, I'd call it the best game in the series. I'd go that far. Mega Man 03 is really fucking good. It's really fucking good. So, I've come to appreciate the other people. Mega Man it's bigger than Inafune, honestly. It's much bigger than him, and just because he is launching into NFTs, it's like, well, whatever, man. It was the designers, it was the the writers, the other artists, the composers, the music. Those were the people. Like, yeah, he had a part in it, but it was a team effort, right? I think especially with games, there's such a team effort, right? There's such team efforts. Like, Warren Spector has this quote. Hey, we'll get to Warren Spector in a minute. Warren Spector has this great quote where he basically says that, like, he thinks that there's too much idolization of individuals in the games industry, where it's like, he's like, it's such a collaborative medium, it's such a collaborative industry that, like, you can never really pin it all on one person. And then, of course, in that same article, they're like, yeah, Warren Spector, creator of Deus Ex, or something like that. Completely ignoring his point. Yeah, there's plenty of people who have, like, just as valuable legacies with, something as special as Mega Man. What was my next topic? Interesting. Where the frick was this? This just came out. I want to jump by this quick. Apparently, EA was going to merge with NBC Universal, and the deal only fell apart last month. In April. Basically, yeah, it was I'm just skimming the article right now. I'm gonna be honest, I saw this last minute. Do I not get this entire article if I don't pay for it? What? NBC Universal. Yeah, yeah, that's the story. I don't know. Fucking crazy. The story also says EA also had talks with Disney, Apple, and Amazon. I don't even know how to feel about that. I don't even know how to feel about that. Like, NBC, like, what were they gonna do? They were gonna stream. Are they gonna make the Office game? There already is one. I want to make a video on the Office video game one day. I just think it's weird. Yeah, that's it. That's literally all I have to say about that. It's weird. I'm going to talk about hamsters now. This one comes from automaton.com, automatonmedia.com, from Ayuo Kawase. One Japanese developer's hamster games have sold so well, they established a hamster department. Yeah, you heard that right. So there's this developer, they're called Success. Great name. They make a couple games, but their most successful, they make like kind of casual, looks like more casual games in general. But they made this hamster like raising simulator game that just fucking exploded. It just popped off. Because, I don't know, I think their mascot is actually, like, their logo is a hamster. Just kind of funny. So this they made some more hamster games. Let's see. The positive reception of their hamster titles, especially the hamster raising game, Tales of Jungarian Hamster for the Nintendo Switch, which has earned tens of millions of yen. Holy crap. It's like $10. And I guess there's no microtransactions. It just fucking sold like insanely well. Jungarian. I don't know what hamster is pronounced like in Japanese, but that's not how you spell hamster. Right? Whatever. Also, it released a hamster raising game for iOS and Android called Namahom. According to Success, it's been downloaded over 450,000 times. They have another game in development called Hamster Valley, featuring designs and graphics from hamster artist Gote. Just a whole hamster artist. That's your. I just do hamsters. Yeah, I'm like a hamster guy. The company's goal is for downloads of the game to exceed those of Namahom. So, these were so successful, they were like, holy shit, the hamster genre is an untapped gold mine. So they created a hamster department. And now they say it's not technically a real department, as far as like in a corporate structure sense. Because I guess that stuff takes a while. It's more of like a club in the company. However, the aim is for it to grow into a legitimate department in the future. There might be some kind of... I know in Japan there's probably some kind of stupid amount of bureaucracy and paperwork that they've got to get through before they can create like a new department like that. But they want... This is basically just like a baby department. The hamster department. Currently, the hamster department is made up of 18 members across a wide age range of members in their 20s through their 50s. Success has a lot of animal lovers among its staff, with the Yokoso Hitsuji Mura, or Welcome to Sheep Village, team even having gone to a zoo together. I guess that's Welcome to Sheep Village is one of their titles. Oops, just banged my mic. Company president Takato Yoshinari, born in 1949 and currently 73 years old. It's a picture of him. Is this old Japanese man in like a karate gi, and apparently he raises chinchillas. And this is like his official picture. It's just him and his gi doing the esports pose. In Japan, they call it the esports pose. It's the one. It's just where you cross your arms and look at the camera, all dramatic. So they call it the esports pose. I love this story. This is a great story. What else do I want? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll talk for a little bit about some games. I played some things this week. Okay, well, number one, actually, I should talk about Vampire Survivors a bit. New update came out for Vampire Survivors. I finally unlocked Leda. I don't know how its name is pronounced. His name is pronounced. Her name is pronounced. I don't know what the fuck they're supposed to be. It's like a person in a big flesh meatball. It's weird. Finally unlocked them. They're one of the secret characters. It was like, I'd been trying to unlock them for forever, and it turns out that I just like wasn't doing it right. Like, you need to like go they only spawn. You have to unlock them by defeating them. You have to find them in one of the specific stages, and then you gotta go. So you have to go like way down. You gotta go super low on the map to get to the area where they can spawn. And then at that point it's like super dark. Like there's this darkness that just closes in on you, and you gotta basically just find them in the dark, and then kill them, and then you unlock them. So I finally did that. Got a chance to mess around with the new character. It's like a angel with a guitar, and or it's like they got like bat wings and they have a guitar, and the weapon's really neat. It's like basically they're called like shadow pinions, and they're like these, so as you walk, these little like these like black drills you'll leave a trail of them behind you, and then when you stop walking, when you stop moving, whichever direction you're facing when you stop moving, the drills will like that are out, that have been left behind like in your trail, will shoot into that direction. So you're like walking from like left to right, and then you like tap down and then stop walking, and you just tap it. All of those drills that you left will just shoot downwards. It's really cool. It's a very satisfying, fun weapon to use, because you could build up a bunch of drills by like walking back and forth, and then just tap in a direction and just launch this barrage that just pierces through 100 enemies. It's really cool. They have like a limited range and stuff, but it's fun. It's a cool idea for a weapon. That's pretty much all. That's my Vampire Survivors update. I've been playing. I dabbled. I dipped my toes into playing I checked out. You're not gonna believe this. Mortal Kombat, Deadly Alliance. So you might hear that and you're like, Tigan, why are you playing Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance in 2022? Well, dear viewer, I don't really know. I have no clue. Well, I can sort of tell you why. So, there is a YouTube channel called PNDKNM. You can probably just find them by searching like PNDKM. Just the letters, PNDKM. It is a pair of twin brothers from, I don't know where in England, Piccadilly? So what it stands for, so the idea of the channel, they're from Piccadilly in England, which sounds like a fake place. And PND stands for Piccadilly Nerf Demanders, which is a really great name for like a team. Because they got into competitive Mortal Kombat with like Mortal Kombat 9, and their local scene in Piccadilly, they ended up calling themselves the Piccadilly Nerf Demanders, which is pretty funny. The K and M part is because, as twin brothers, they got really into playing Sector and Cyrax, who, if you don't know, are the two of the cyber ninjas. Sector is red, and Cyrax is yellow. So they're kind of affectionately called Ketchup and Mustard, which I think is actually their name in development. Their nickname during development was Ketchup and Mustard. So, fittingly, the two guys go by, their handles are Ketchup and Mustard. So Ketchup is the one who's usually on screen. I think Mustard edits, and he like streams and stuff. But, yeah, so they run a channel that is mostly dedicated to Mortal Kombat content. And honestly, some really good, cool content revolved around fighting games. Like, sometimes it's just sometimes it is just like, straight gameplay and stuff like that with their commentary. Or, usually catch-ups. Sometimes it's, sometimes it's guides and stuff like that. But really what I think their best content is like historical rundowns of Mortal Kombat, which is really interesting because it's kind of a blind spot for me, if I'm going to be honest. I've never been a Mortal Kombat guy. It was never really my thing. Even when I got into fighting games, it wasn't my thing. And it wasn't even really the violence. It was just like, I mean, the violence is part of it. I honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I find the modern MK games to be a little overboard with violence. Maybe I'm just an old soul, but it doesn't really do anything for me. I remember like booting up MKX, playing some of Jason, because I was like, Jason looks cool, and he's one of the only characters who actually animates well, because he's supposed to look janky and jerky and just like swinging his limbs around unnaturally, which is what most characters in that game look like. And he I just remember like doing like a versus CPU match, and then I won it, and I was like, oh right, my fatality. Let me look that up. I've never done a fatality before. So I pull up the command list. I just quickly in my memory jot down what it is. I do the fatality, and he's just fucking like with the machete. And I had this moment where I realized, like, I don't really care about this. I'm just not really into hyper violence, like hyper realistic violence. It's just, I don't know, like, not, it just doesn't appeal to me that much. And modern MK games really lead into that. Like, yeah, it's always been a violent series, but it was kind of silly. And I think part of that was like the technology and all that. But it just didn't allow for it. It's like, what are you gonna have? Oh, you're gonna have a PNG of like Scorpion's head. You're gonna hold it up. Crazy, dude. There's kind of like a campy, silly element to it too, with like, oh, fucking smoke shoots out like 100 bombs, and then the Earth explodes, and you're like, okay. Jade throws you up, and then you land and get impaled on her staff. Like, okay, it's a little gruesome, but it's not like the craziest thing in the world. And then you get forward to the modern games where it's like, they fucking throw a punch, and like it zooms in and fucking X-ray, and you see the bones snap under their fucking, like, the weight of their punch, and they just do, and it's like zooming on the fucking facial expressions of this character just in agonizing pain, and like, it's just weird. I don't know, I think it's weird. It's just like too much. It's not really why I play fighting games, I guess. It's not really why I play video games, unless it's like Manhunt. But Manhunt, the point of that game is to make you uncomfortable. The point of Manhunt is to show you violence that's so like gruesome and realistic that it makes you like feel dirty. Because it's supposed to fucking be like, oh, this is what violence is like. This is what killing someone would be like. It's not fun. Yeah, I don't know. I just find it off-putting. So, like, what the fuck was I talking about? Right, yeah, so, the modern MKs have never been my thing, and I've never really had access to the old ones. I did a video way back on Mortal Kombat 3, or, like, it involved Mortal Kombat 3. So I was, like, I played a little bit of that just to get footage, and I didn't play it for long enough to get any kind of, like, grasp on it, really. And I don't know, I always looked at the 3D era games, and I just looked at it as like, damn, that looks jank. That just looks janky. Who the fuck is... Oh my god, people are fucking yelling at each other outside my room. And I think that's the perception of a lot of the 3D era games. But so, K&M, they do some really cool videos on the history of the series, and and honestly just kind of like discussing it seriously and not like, oh, these are the shitty ones or something. I mean, there is some of that with like, mythologies or something like that, or Mortal Kombat Advance. But a lot of it is just like, okay, they have this great series called the MK Meta, and it's like all of the Mortal Kombat games and like what their competitive scene looked like analyzing them from like a competitive standpoint, and it's honestly really interesting. Like, I really didn't know anything about Ultimate MK3. And now, even though, I can look at it, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of janky, right? I have way more respect for that game and the competition than I did, before I was exposed to their content. I don't know what the fuck is going on outside my room. And honestly, I appreciate that. I've always found it interesting that, like, because I've experienced this with stuff that I like, is that people won't take something seriously, and then once you start talking about it, and you kind of, like, they kind of have that, like, smirk and that smile, like, okay. And then you start talking about it as, like, a legitimate thing, and you can kind of see, like, the gears. You can see it in their eyes, right? You kind of see the gears turning. Or they kind of, you can see their opinions changing as you talk. Kind of like, there's some fucking shit going on inside my window. You basically you kind of like legitimize it in their eyes. This sort of happens with a lot of things. It's like, if you aren't exposed to something, you're only familiar with it like secondhand. It's really easy to form an opinion until you talk to someone who's like just like you, and maybe you're getting along with them, and they start talking about something that you had no interest in or just kind of dismissed, and then you're like, maybe it's not like entirely just a waste of time. So they did they do like other videos, like the competitive history of like a specific character. So they go through like every version of this character in every Mortal Kombat game, and or just appearance that they had, and because there's a couple crossovers. Excuse me. And just like about how, like, what were their strengths, what were their weaknesses, their main tools, and how they were kind of interpreted over time. And it's really interesting. I think if you have even like a passing interest in Mortal Kombat, they do a really good job of making it entertaining and engaging. Like, great content. P, N, D, K, and M. I mean, if you just look up like the MK Meta or Mortal Kombat competitive history, you'll find them. So they did this video. In my mind, I've always dismissed the 3D era games as like, those are the weird jank ones. They were like chasing this trend or something, and it's not. Honestly, I had no respect for it, if I'm going to be honest. And then I saw their video on Deadly Alliance, and I remember looking at it and looking at the game, and I just had this thing where I was like, this game looks kind of cool. and I couldn't explain why. Just thought, this game looks kind of cool. I kind of want to check it out. So, like, there's 0 re-releases of this shit. It would be really nice to get a re-release of all the 3D era games. I understand that there might be some copyright issues with the original, like, trilogy, because of, like, the actors and stuff. But the 3D games is, like, fucking, I don't know. I don't see what the holdup is. I think it would be really nice for, like, an anniversary or something. Because they are really interesting. So I, procured a copy of MK Deadly Alliance. I booted it up, and the game is kind of cool. I kind of like it. I like the way I like the way it looks. I'm not sure what it is, because not all the 3D era games have that pull for me, but something about Deadly Alliance is just, I don't know, there's this stage, and it takes place in this sort of like, it's kind of like an arena, but it's filled with water. Like, kind of like how, in the Colosseum, like the Roman Colosseum, they had like a whole mechanism for flooding the the field of the arena, so they could have fucking makeshift naval battles with, like, they would drop ships in there. They would have naval battles in the Colosseum. Like, what the fuck? It's this stage that's kind of like that, but there's this big wooden circle in the center that's the kind of the platform that you fight on, and there's like I don't know, like weird MK, like outworld, like other dimension people, like slaves or something, just like they're like rowing essentially, and they're keeping the thing turning, so it's constantly turning as you're fighting. And there's like, I think there's even like rain going down, and it's just something about it. I'm like, that's a cool stage. That's a cool looking stage. There's something just like very interesting about it. And then gameplay wise, it's actually like, it's a little funky, but solid. It's solid. It's very, apparently Deadly Alliance is very, quote, like, button heavy. And, it's very button heavy in the sense that it's a buttons game, which makes no fucking sense if you're not a fighting game player. Basically, it's a game that's it's very much built around like your normals, your regular moves, and less so like your specials. Characters have very few specials. Like, a lot of characters have 2 specials or something like that. So you're using a lot of like your pokes and stuff to try and like convert into damage. I'm still not entirely sure. I'm very unused to the Mortal Kombat's combo system. Like, so like the way that pokes and conversions work, I'm still like, it's really weird to me. Because I don't think you can really hit confirm. It's so weird. So if you've never played Mortal Kombat, you to do combos in MK, they used to be called dial-a-combos, or dial-a-combo, because you would literally, so every character basically has preset strings, and you get the first hit, and you don't like wait for the hit to connect. You dial in the entire sequence. If it's like square, triangle, triangle, square, you hit all of that. Bop, 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 bop. Bop, 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 bop. There's no timing of like, let me wait for my first attack to land and then I'll convert. There's no like hit confirming. It's just you just go into it. And that was very different for me. I'll say it was very different to like, because I was getting messed up because I was just trying to like, I was looking at the move list and I'm like trying to do these strings and it's just not coming out and I don't know why. And then I realized, oh, it's because like I'm trying to like confirm. I'm trying to like cancel or link or whatever because I'm so much more used to that. And it's like, no, you just have to punch that shit in sequence, and there's like a weird moment where you're just waiting for the string to finish and you're like, okay, I'm not pressing any buttons. It's very odd, coming from every other fighting game under the sun. It's very weird. I can't say I like it or dislike it. It's just different. There's probably pros and cons to it. But the way that combos kind of end up working in this game, and I think... I'm not sure if the older games worked like this, but you have strings, and strings will usually end in either like a hard knockdown or a launcher. And the launchers are where things get spicy, because the launchers are where you can actually start working in things like your special moves, and basically like just juggles into the combo. So like you do a quick string into a bounce, into a launcher, and then as they're falling, you do some kicks. You do a string as they're falling, or you do like one move, and then it kind of bounces them up a bit, and you like enough for like, I guess the attack. I guess it like kind of like keeps like a quick, what'd you call it, cooldown? There's like a window where like, oh, if you hit 2 buttons in sequence, it'll do a string. You gotta wait for that window to be over for a second. And then you as they're falling, start falling again, and then you start doing the string. And I remember I was just messing around in the training mode, just looking at the characters and stuff, and I was like, this is kind of cool. This is kind of a cool combo system. I sort of dig it. The game has like a bunch of unlockable content. A good like half of the roster is locked away at the start, and you gotta go into the crypt, ooh, spooky, to unlock it. Like, I could definitely see this keeping someone like busy for a while. Yeah, it's just interesting. I don't know. I've never been an MK guy. Never been particularly... I'm not really like a 3D fighter guy. I've never been really into like that Mortal Kombat style or anything, but here I am. I can say I enjoyed my time with MK Deadly Alliance. It's cool. It's kind of fun. I find the block button is really weird still to me. Also, the 3D thing is weird. Like so there's like sides. It's like full 3D, as in like there's sidestepping, right? So you would hit like up or down to sidestep. And now you're thinking like, oh, but is there jumping? And you're like, is there jumping and crouching? And it's like, yes. And the way that you do that is you could only do that with diagonals. So like you could only, if you tap up, you're going to just sidestep upwards, forward. However, to jump, you have to hold like, you have to hit up and back. You hit up back, and to jump forward, you hit up forward, which is really odd. Jumping is definitely not a core part of the game, as it is, it's not in most 3D fighters, I want to say. So it's like weird. It's interesting. I don't know if I have that much more to say. Again, my brain is like frying right now. Yeah, MK Deadly Alliance. I enjoyed it. You can go check it out. Again, like a whole collection would be cool to see. Just to see like, I don't know, all the games together again. But, yeah, I don't know why they don't do it. They should. Maybe because they kind of get shunned by the community or whatever. But I think it would be cool. I think it would be a cool send-up. Even if it was just like a digital only thing, Finally, I want to talk about Deus Ex. I've been playing Deus Ex, the original, from 2000. Why? Well, I got it on a Steam sale for like 79 cents, like a couple months ago. I don't know how that happened, but yeah. I was like, sure, I'll pick up Deus Ex. And I've been meaning to play it for forever, and then I finally got around to it this week. Now, there is a little bit of jankiness with setting it up. I am using a community patch, or a community launcher, basically, that includes some fixes. So what's the version specifically that I'm using? It's called like I think it's literally just called like the community update. It's something like that. I found it in like a Reddit thread. And basically what it does is it comes with a couple patches for the game. Number one, the most relevant one is that it adds a couple new aspect ratios. So if the version on Steam actually does not go up to my monitor's resolution, which is like 1920 by 1080, didn't actually go up to that resolution. Or is it 1280? It's 1280, sorry. 1920 by 1280. It went up to the maximum was like 1600 by 900 or 1620 by 9 something. So playing it in windowed mode, which I prefer for everything, was weird and uncomfortable and cramped. So this adds a bunch of new aspect ratios. Great. And also apparently bug fixes for a couple conversations throughout the game. So I was like, okay, that seems worth it to me, because this seems like a very dialogue heavy game. So what about the game itself? That game kind of fucking rocks. Deus Ex is kind of really good. It's really, really good. There is definitely a reason why people are still talking about it 22 years later. Because it's really good. And it was quite groundbreaking at the time. I mentioned Warren Spector before. He was the lead designer on this game. And yeah, that's why. He's usually called the creator. But he basically... Deus Ex kind of invented... It pioneered so many little things that became so influential. There was so many little things that there was seemingly like no useful genre term for it. Like, people didn't really know what to call it. So they made up a new one, which was an immersive sim. Because it had all these new ideas about, like, interacting with the environment and the gameplay affecting the story and allowing the player to tackle challenges in a bunch of different ways. And like a heavy focus on narrative and all these things. And exploration. Optional stuff and resource management and upgrading your character. These like light RPG elements and stuff like that. And there just wasn't a term for like all of the... It feels like... I refer to this sometimes. Maybe I need to come up with a name for this. A game where someone had a really cool idea. And then they made that idea. This feels like one of those games. It's like, I want to capture the feeling of being a secret agent. how do I do that? Like in like a cyberpunk setting, how do I do that? And basically by like giving you the tools to allow you to be crafty, to allow you like approach a situation in an interesting way that doesn't seem obvious. So like there's this, I forget who said it, but it's a great quote. It's basically this quote that goes something like, the idea is that the player feels like they have a lot of choice. Not like, how do you get the player to feel like they have a lot of choice? You don't give them like 10 choices up front, for instance. You don't show them like, here's the 10 things you can do. What you do is you say, here's 5 things you can do. The player goes, okay, I can tackle 5 things. And then you set it up in a way where it's either like guaranteed or very easy for them to discover number 6. They find option 6 and they're like, what? And then they find option 7. And like the longer that you, by the time you get that like twist almost, it's more meaningful because it's challenging the player's expectations of what they can do, in a positive way, not in like a disappointing way. They're going like, whoa, now what else is possible? And even though you only had 10 options or whatever, you had 10 things, it feels like so much because they were starting out with, their initial impression was that there was only half of that stuff. So once they're given the freedom to like find that, it's just like this expansion. That's how they're looking at it. It's an expansion of the possibilities that are open to them. And Deus Ex is like crazy good at this. Every single mission has like so many different ways that you can approach it. It's crazy. Like there's at least two routes to. There's usually like an objective. There's usually like one or more primary objectives and some secondary objectives. And there's usually like two ways to approach the primary objective. It'll be like, you can go in from this way or this way. But then even then, it'll be like, okay, you chose to get there through option B. Well, on your way to get there, taking option B, you are going to encounter these situations that you are also given the freedom to navigate through as you see fit. Like, okay, I need to get to this building. I'm going to go in through the rooftop. Well, on my way to the rooftop, there are 3 or 4 different paths that I can take, like little mini paths that will get me to the same place, but in a different way, and with potentially more or less risk/reward. And it keeps the gameplay constantly engaging, because you're always thinking about, like, what could I be doing? There's this constant sense of, like, am I missing something? What if I did this? Because the game also feels extremely, like, reactive. For instance, I read a neat little like comment one time about how at the beginning of the game you're in like your secret agency, and you're supposed to go to like this one office, right? And on the way there's like you find the restrooms, so you can go to the men's restroom and it's the men's restroom. If you go into the women's restroom, there's a woman in there and she actually scolds you for going in there. And then later, when you're talking to like your supervisor, he adds a comment at the end if you did that. and he goes like, "Hey, don't go into the women's bathroom ever again because it makes the agency look bad." And at the time that came out, that level of like interaction or dynamic, like, is dynamism a word? I guess it is. That level of dynamism was never seen. It was never seen. Maybe in like rare cases, but it was so rare to see something like that. And it's fairly consistent. A lot of the choices like have me questioning, like, is this, how many ways could I have gone about this? It's definitely a game you could probably play like 5 or even 10 times and find new ways to do things. Like, no playthrough is going to be exactly the same. It's so cool. It's so cool. I love the main character. If you don't know, Deus Ex is like the ultimate conspiracy game. And it's kind of shocking because it's basically like the COVID conspiracy. It's literally like the government has engineered a pandemic. It's 2050, and the government has engineered a pandemic to control population overpopulation. And you are a secret agent with like these cybernetic implants and augmentations that your goal is to, because the governments are like collaborating with, international companies like private militaries or like medical companies, because they're trying to basically control the vaccine. And who gets the vaccine? Spoiler alert, it's all powerful rich people. So they're trying to control the vaccine. Meanwhile, they're also having these like basically small private militaries. And you are enforcing, at least at the beginning of the game, in the early stages of the game, you're enforcing that. You're enforcing that. Like, they're sending you on missions to like recover the vaccine or do something like that. The opening mission is it's an assault on the Statue of Liberty Island, and essentially the Statue of Liberty was like attacked. It was an attack, like a terror attack. So it's got this whole tower built around it, and you pull up onto the docks and you sneak around, and there's a couple different ways you can get in. I ended up like climbing up some crates, which took me to like one of the levels of the tower, and from there I just snuck my way up till I got to the very top where like the rebel leader, terrorist leader, was hiding out. And then after I was done, I had to go back to the docks. And on my way down, I decided that I would go check out, the way that I avoided, essentially. And I found out there's an entire level that I just skipped, with like nooks and crannies and little secrets and like hidden passageways. And I just completely skipped that in my path, because I don't know. And it was really cool. I don't know. The game is just dope. The worst parts of it are definitely some of the more things that have not aged great technologically. So, for instance, some of the collision is a little funky. There's some sections that are like really painful to get through because of the collision. There's one in particular where you have to do some very like tight, basically some very tight movement. It's movement through a very tight space, and the collision just gets really funny, and it's kind of annoying. but it's mostly an isolated. That's mostly an isolated incident. The graphics have not aged particularly great. The humans do not look very good. Like, they look fine until they open their mouths, and then it just gets weird and somewhat gross. The humans look really odd. But it's, it's whatever. It's still perfectly understandable. It's just odd, Like, it is a low poly game in many, many ways. The voice acting can range from, like, pretty good to, like, god awful. So mainly with, like, the NPCs. A lot of, like, the named characters and stuff like that have pretty decent voices, but the NPCs, oh my god, like, I wonder if, for some of them, I wonder if English was their first language, and I'm not even saying that in a mean way. I guess it's kind of mean, but, like, this sounds like someone who's reading it phonetically. It's, like, bizarre. Yeah, I'm not done with it. I'm about 16 hours in. It's great. I don't want to spoil too much, but yeah, it's I am enjoying it a ton. I'm playing it on realistic difficulty, in case you're curious. Because I figured, like, okay, my I was gonna basically pick between normal and realistic. I thought easy might be too easy. I was worried that hard, for like a game that I knew had a lot of stealth in it, I was worried that hard would just end up becoming really annoying. I didn't feel like dealing with that. I looked up, like, basically what realistic meant, and it's just kind of like you and enemies deal kind of equivalent damage to each other. And I was like, okay, or at least that's one part of it. And I've been having a perfectly good time. I feel challenged enough by, like, the AI and everything on this difficulty, so it's really not much of a problem. Yeah, I'll probably, hopefully, I'm not sure exactly how long it'll be, but hopefully by next week I'll have, like, a full review of it, because it is a game that I'm really enjoying. I really like the main character. I really like the setting. It's this dirty, grungy cyberpunk setting in the future. The music is really cool. I don't know. There's just a bunch of stuff. I'm a big fan. Yeah, I would definitely recommend checking it out. With some community patch updates and stuff like that. The community launcher or whatever. I think it's called Transcendence. It's great. I would highly recommend Deus Ex. I think it's aged very well, and I know that there's certain things that, like, to me have aged just fine, and to other people they're like, oh, System Shock. Always go to bat for System Shock. But, like, yeah, I would recommend it, and I'm honestly excited to play more of it. I'm really having a good time. It does a weird thing where it screws up the gamma values on my monitor. I don't know why. Gamma correction is basically it's basically the part of, like, your graphics that, how do I describe this? It balances the mid-tones of colors, if that makes sense, so that things look correct. Because your eyes, basically it comes down to the fact that our eyes perceive lights and images differently from screens and cameras and stuff like that. So gamma correction corrects that through some kind of, I'm sure, complicated, mathematical model system. Yeah, so when I have it open, because I was looking at this and I was like, when I was running in windowed mode, I was like, the icons on my taskbar look kind of washed out. What's that about? Excuse me. Is that correct? Because like I felt like I was going crazy. I was like, does everything look kind of washed out on my monitor? Like, what's going on? And then I found out through some troubleshooting that yes, for some reason the game just like did weird stuff to my gamma values, and it wasn't anything I had to fix on my monitor. It was like a software thing. And actually, as soon as I closed the game, it totally went away. So it's really not that big of a problem. It's just weird. It's just a weird issue I've never seen before. So yeah, basically, like if your gamma correction is too high, everything looks kind of washed out and kind of flat. Like it's a little too light. Essentially, it looks like faded almost, like faded colors. And if the gamma's too low, everything looks kind of weird and like it's gripped in shadow. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you've been watching this far, thank you so much for watching. Going for 2 hours. I didn't think I'd go this long. Thank you for watching. If you have a question, leave it in the comments below. But please phrase it in the form of a question, because I don't just want to read your thoughts out loud. If you leave a question, I'll definitely get to it next time. I am going to go pass out. Goodbye. Oh, fuck. Goodbye.